the opportunity of the business is actually there, like the gap of the expectation in Vietnam and Japan, still there is a gap. In Vietnam, still a lot of restaurants, if I go to restaurant and raise a hand, salad don't come, right? I have to every MO, right? So what I feel is actually the expectation of the customer is actually lower than what it is in Japan. So if I exceed expectation, it means wow, it means you are good, right? So that actually is a great opportunity. My name is Taku. I'm CEO and founder of KAMEREO. So I've been in Vietnam for 10 years right now. In 2015, I moved to Vietnam to join Pizza for Peace. During my Pizza for Peace journey, I helped them to expand the business to Ho Chi Minh, Hanoi, Da Nang. And after 3 years of Pizza for Peace, I realized the supply chain in Vietnam for food is very inefficient yet. So I started to solve that problem as KAMEREO. So KAMEREO is a B2B e-commerce to supply the food ingredients for mostly the restaurant, hotel, cafe, supermarket, factory, school. Whatever business need the food ingredient to cook, we supply as a one-stop platform. Actually, when I was a student, everyone else around me is looking for a new job. And that time I was in US to study abroad, so I was looking for some company, not Japanese company, because Japanese company don't do hiring in US. And I found the finance industry is interesting. I can learn about finance itself and also the economy and also business. Luckily, I got an offer from Graces and I joined. But when I joined, I already think I'm not gonna be there for a long time because my dream is opening my own restaurant by myself. And to do so, I need the money to open it. So luckily, the Gracies offer high salary. And then after working for 3 years, and I realized now time to go. But opening by myself for restaurant business in Japan is extremely not easy. A lot of competition, a lot of big companies out there to compete. A lot of business at that time try to expand to overseas, like developing country like Vietnam. Vietnam itself keep growing the economy. And the F&B is one of the big market in economy itself. So as economy grow, F&B is gonna also grow. The first thing I learned in Vietnam, I see so noisy compared to Japan, and everyone is so smiling. And I feel it's so great actually. If you come to Japan, Japan is so quiet. And not so many people are smiling. I saw like why they're so smiling and they're more positive. I feel like people are kind of believing country is still gonna grow. Tomorrow might be better than today. But in Japan, if you ask the same question, most of people are gonna say tomorrow might be same as today or maybe even worse than today. Right, so they don't feel like future is better. So when I was in the 20s of my career, I feel like, oh, I think it's very interesting to be in this market because I couldn't have that opportunity in Japan anymore. And also, our people in Vietnam getting more curious about the new things, new flavor. For example, when I was in Vietnam 10 years ago, a lot of people don't want to eat sushi or sashimi. But now a lot of sushi, sashimi, Japanese restaurants have a lot of customers. Also back then, not so many ladies don't drink alcohol. Only the men drink beer, mohai bayo, right? But right now, if I go to the kind of bar, cocktail bar, a lot of ladies groups drinking cocktail, wine, and that's actually amazing. So more and more diversity are in F&B sector now. That time I found Pizza for Peace back in 2014. And that time they only have one store in Le Tanton Street in Ho Chi Minh City. But I thought that they have a potential to grow fast and they have very interesting concept and opportunity. So I email to the founder and I joined. So I think there are a lot of lessons I learned from the For Peace. One thing I feel, maybe it's not about lesson, but it's something I found out is that when I work in a For Peace in a restaurant, and I realized the customers say, oh, your service is great. And sometimes I ask, oh, why do you think so? And they actually say, because if I raise a hand, the server gonna come immediately. But that's very normal in Japan. The opportunity of the business is actually there, like the gap of the expectation in Vietnam and Japan, still there is a gap. In Vietnam, still a lot of restaurants, if I go to restaurant and raise a hand, server don't come, right? I have to every MO, right? So what I feel is actually the expectation of the customer is actually lower than what it is in Japan. In Japan, they expect really high. So if you do a little bit mistake, it's already minus. But in Vietnam, maybe the expectation of the customer is not that high compared to Japan. So if I exceed expectation, it means wow, it means you are good, right? So that actually is a great opportunity. One of the biggest job I think I did in 4Ps is I managed the purchasing team and supply chain team. And in Vietnam, I realized for the one restaurant, I need to work with a lot of suppliers because there is not one-stop supplier who can supply as many as products the restaurant needs, right? And I need to contact with everyone by either Zalo or email or phone call. And also sometimes they don't deliver on time, or they deliver late, or without any notice, or they don't deliver what I want, or quality is up down, or price change without any notice. So again, what it's normal in Japan is not normal yet in Vietnam. To solve that problem, I need to own the supply chain. The reason why those fluctuation problems happen for the existing supply chain is most of restaurants, they buy from the already who are sitting on the web market. But that already, they don't own anything. So what they do is basically when the restaurant order after the operation, like midnight, she get order, she go to the bigger web market and buy and bring to restaurant in the next morning. By doing so, she doesn't have any inventory risk. So that's great. However, she cannot manage anything about quality, price, and operation. So that's why I take a different approach. Of course, it's more difficult, and in the beginning, I lose money. But for the long term, I believe this could be the better supply chain and service for the F&B. So basically, food business been a long time in Vietnam, but actually there is no much revolution, innovation yet. And when I do restaurant business in Vietnam, I realized the food supply chain been there for a long time, but never evolved innovation way. So in theory, it's better and cheaper and more sustainable if I work directly with a farmer or producer. But it's not easy to do, right? To work with a farmer and producer, you need a big volume. But most of the restaurants, they don't have big volume. So it's easy to say, but difficult to do. We take different approach. We do manage everything from upstream to downstream as a supply chain. We basically work with the farmer so that we can offer the better price and best price to the customer. So sometimes, even though the farmer is good skill, they cannot farm well because of all of disease or the weather, right? That's why we need to always have several farmers to back up so that we can kind of work out, we have enough products to supply. Basically, we are not doing something new, to be honest, right? Because on the surface, we supply things to the restaurant, and restaurant needs something to cook. So to tell what we do is not difficult, but I think our switching cost is high. So some restaurants, they have it working with supplier for a long time, like 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And those people, it's not easy to switch. So it takes time to convince the customer to switch. And that's sometimes not controllable by myself. So what we can control is basically our team should try to keep communicating with a lot of people. And if their supplier has some problem, mistake and things, we can suggest, oh, you want to try our service. And if we are the better, basically they're gonna stick with us. The value we give to the customer is not about I'm selling this product cheap So one of the value is a one-stop platform where customer can buy everything. Customer don't need to buy from the many people, which takes a lot of time and effort to manage. So by streamlining all the products into the one space, basically that's already the value for the customer. And as a company, I think we try to minimize the supply chain journey. Let's say if some other supply chain, it takes like, I don't know, 2 weeks, for example, from the producer until the customer, because there is a lot of middlemen. But we are only the sole middleman between, so we can shorten the time of the period. By doing so, we can reduce the wastage for some fresh product, I believe. For the startup, I think especially in Vietnam, idea itself is not so much valuable. The differentiation point is actually how we execute, and how we execute is all about the team. About the team is all about the culture. So I think we need to be very serious about our culture, especially some of the core values like teamwork, integrity. So even though some people who are doing great job or who are very smart, if they don't have teamwork spirit and integrity, we don't hire. About lack of experience, I don't really care, because experience you can learn, but the mindset is very difficult to change, and I don't think people will change very easy. And that's why we more care about the mindset when we do hiring. Team and people, when they are excited to work or they want to work harder, is when they get trusted. I try to trust as much as possible. For something, I leave it to them. So as a CEO job, my job is not do everything. My job is basically to trust my team to do what they are good at, and I need to focus on more long-term strategy or partnership or fundraise and those things, which I only can do. But also difficulty of the building team is like a company has good momentum. If company is falling down, no one want to work with them, right? And or if a company are just stable for a long time but very slow, maybe don't want to work. So I also need to company be a very the interesting place to work as kind of momentum of growing, and that's also very important for hiring people and keeping people too. I think there are a lot of things entrepreneur has to have. Maybe those things doesn't have to be in the beginning of the journey. Fail first and learn first is one of the reasons we can win over the big corporate, because they're so slow. But I think also the startup journey is not a sprint. It's about more like a marathon, like it's long term, right? Because if you want to build a really big business which really create a value for the society, it takes time, right? It's impossible to build a company like 1 year to be really great, right? So it has to be patient, and to be patient, you really need to like what you do, right? If you don't like what you do, I think it's easy to stop. You cannot keep doing so. So one of the things I think I'm grateful is I like what I do, and I like my team. Yeah, so I think it's not easy, but if it's easy, no meaning, right? If it's easy, anyone can do. The startup has to be challenging, but you need to like it. Yeah, I think that's what I think.